Danny Brown Quaranta album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from Mr. Danny Brown, Detroit-based MC, a man that I have the utmost respect for. If you know anything about me and this channel, Danny may just very well be the modern MC that means the most to me. And while I do know that he made his debut years ago with the Hybrid, it's okay. It was his Triple X mixtape that really made me a fan literally overnight. Not only did it make me a fan of his, it reinvigorated my love of hip-hop and rap. This is one of the best mixtapes of the 2000s and one of my favorite albums of all time. Not only is it just chock full of personality, very gritty beats, great production, there's a lot more going on the album too with its narrative, as the first half of this album are just wild-eyed, crazy, just party bangers and bangers and bangers, with the second half of this album being a much more grim reflection of life, as well as the sort of come down after the wild first half of this album. It is truly great. I could not wait to see what Danny would do next. Now, with his next album, Old, definitely more consistency issues this time around. It was a much bigger album at the end of the day, 2 discs, and still to this day, I don't know if it needed to be, and it does get a little bloated in parts, but still, Danny Overnight, to me, was one of the most fascinating, layered MCs in the game right now, and he just blew the damn thing out of the water with Atrocity Exhibition. This is one of the genuinely most experimental, wildest, and tortured rap albums of this decade. It is a freak show, but a really, really good one. Now, the last time we heard from Danny in a solo aspect, it was with 2019's You Know What I'm Saying. This thing from a mile had me salivating because I knew that Q-Tip was behind the production on all tracks. And my thoughts on it really haven't changed that much. It's good. It's really, really good, as a matter of fact. Better than most rap albums that year. But at the same time, I kind of felt like Danny was, I don't know, holding back a little, and just overall, I was worried that he was losing a little steam, even if the Best Life single was one of the best things that Danny has ever done single-wise. I think it's fantastic. Now, since then, outside of a few guest verses here and there, Danny's played it pretty elusive, outside of scaring some hoes earlier this year, as a matter of fact. But leading up to this album, I was really hyped. I wanted to see Danny like just really blow my mind again, and there was a lot of positive things leading up to this album. I thought both singles were really good. From a distance, Danny was saying in interviews that this is a sort of a spiritual bookend to his Triple X breakout mixtape, and also, on top of that, he claimed it was his most personal album, which it certainly is. This album starts off with its title track, Quaranta, and this is a pretty eye-opening intro, to say the very least. It's bluesy, it's tragic, it shows an aging Danny Brown's just sounding exhausted, mentally shot as well. Like, if you're looking for a wild-eyed banger or one of his early freaky pop culture-filled bangers of a tune, you're not going to find it here. This is a personal deep dive. Most of this album is. Memorable one-liners, moments of hope, but also moments of really depressive thoughts. It's a lot. But Danny's lyrics, the bluesy beat, and the tragic feel to this all makes it a hell of an intro. Then we have Tantor, which, leading up to this album, I didn't even know what to think of it. I knew I liked it, but it was pretty freakish. It is a very skittish, paranoid, wild-eyed rap tune that sounds like it would have had a nice home on Atrocity Exhibition. It's weird and off-kilter, and if you're looking for Danny at his freakiest, definitely check this out. I needed at least one cut like this on here, and I'm glad we got it because the track is fantastic. The sampling, especially in the last 30 seconds, is brilliant as well. I love Ain't My Concern as well. While beat-wise and production-wise, it's one of the more, I don't know, plotting tracks here. Definitely on the more pensive side of things, but Danny makes up for that by bringing in a really aggressive, dare I say, hyped verse. And for somebody who has done a lot of self-reflection over the years, as Danny has done in his music, I continue to just be impressed by the vulnerability of this album. This track is jazzy, a little cosmic at times, but laser-focused, can't ask for much more. Dark Sword Angel, on the other hand, sounds like a lot of what Danny was doing on You Know What I'm Saying. I love the funky beat, and Danny lets a little bit of that famous personality shine on this track. but it's just as depressive and self-analyzing. Danny, if anything, over the years has created one hell of a self-portrait through his music. We've also got some absolutely ridiculous pop culture references. The Karl Malone line, Danny. Nice. So it starts off this album really, really sharp and a deep dive, if anything, into Danny's psyche, because I thought that we've gotten that like 3 times, but he just keeps going deeper. But then we get to tracks like YBP featuring Bruiser Wolf, and I don't want to say I'm worried about Danny, but a lot of the consistency errors just keep popping up. This track, wow, this is really, really bad, and one of the worst tracks I think Danny's ever put out. This track is a chore to listen to. This beat is really awful, just the least interesting here by far. Now, Danny does drop a lot of really interesting introspective bars about growing up in Detroit. YBP stands for Young, Black, and Poor. But while it is poetic in a way, Danny's performance is not up to snuff this time around. He sounds bored half the time. And more importantly, Bruiser Wolf's performance is one of the most phoned-in performances I've heard in rap this year. Shakedown is a weird one. It's not where I want to hear Danny Brown, ever. I don't know why this track is so clean and modern. I mean, this track has everything from nods to steamy R&B and just classic pop. And I will give it this, the hook is pretty intoxicating, but overall, this is just a weird choice. In Bass Jam as a finale, I'm kind of middle of the road on it. On one hand, I do like how dreamy and dreary it is. I mean, sentiment-wise, I can't take anything away from this track. It's still another very powerful statement from Danny, but I think this track gets a little too dreamy and hazy. Danny's sleepy performance, it's okay at points, but I don't think it's nearly as heartfelt as other tracks on this album. Not to mention this beat, it's a little too subtle for me. So no, I don't think Danny's like blown my mind again here, but once again, this is just another very good album from Danny Brown. I still think he's easily one of the most consistent MCs out there right now. Jenn's Terrific Vacation featuring Casa Overall, really do love this track. Now, the off-kilter and weirdo beat behind this track definitely does take some growing. This track definitely really took its time, just warming up to me. But Danny's tremendous attention to detail, just how visual this track is, really wins me over. It's gritty, it's dark, and freakish. Danny is a modern master for a reason. I also really love the chorus on this track, even though I feel like it's almost counterintuitive to just how abstract and weird this album gets at times. But I do like it. It is really catchy. It draws me in. Down With It, on the other hand, is a slap in the face, but like in the best way possible. This is easily the most tragic and emotional track here, as Danny really does, dig deep into his soul and confronts his demons right in front of us on this track. It brings me back very much to the second half of Triple X. On top of that, this very chilly, synth-driven beat, it's one of the best here. After this track, I just want to give Danny a freaking hug, man. Also, really love Celibate featuring Mike. I love the sleepy, rainy day beat that we get on this track as Danny just continues to go more and more down the rabbit hole. He continues to dive further into his upbringing and his personal life. It's real. You can argue too real at points. It's very, very in your face. Much like his early work, but that's what really drove me to his music in general. And Mike, who I don't think I've ever talked about on this album just because I haven't listened to a lot of his stuff. I know I'm the worst, but he sounds right at home on this track. It's great. And Hanami late in the album, this track is just so cool. Once again, we see a mentally exhausted Danny Brown just trying desperately to keep up with life. I love the creeping beat that's just the right amount of classy, but also really dreary. And the sentiment behind this track about life and time, it's something that we've all felt. I mean, is this as wild and an eye-opening a project as Triple X or Atrocity Exhibition? No, it's not. But Danny Brown continues to be one of the more just concise and just consistent MCs in modern hip-hop. I mean, no, this album isn't blowing me away, and I'm a little upset with how short it is. It's only 11 tracks, about 32 minutes long. This is by far his shortest project, especially when you look at some of his early work. But Still, the man is wearing his heart on his sleeve, doing a deep dive and, fighting his demons right in front of us to a collection of really cool, rainy day and jazzy beats. It's very, very good. So close to being truly great. I'm feeling a strong 7 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.